Welcome to the video on Catullus 5. As you can see, we have our glass display here, so it's going to be pretty cool. We're going to be able to talk about the entire poem in chunks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the chunks that make most sense together, and I'm going to pause the video, write the next chunk, and then continue on with the video. For you, that'll just be a very brief transition, but for me, I'll have to erase and rewrite. So we'll be able to get through the entire poem, I think, like this, and it's going to be good. So we start off, of course, reading it aloud. Vivamus mea lesbia atqua memus, rumores quae senum severiorum, omnes unius aestimemus assis. It's very beautiful stuff, very famous poem from Catullus. And the reason that you're doing it in my class is because of vivamus. This record does not work. Vivamus with that A right there. Mea lesbia atqua memus. So recently, you have learned independent subjunctives. In other words, subjunctives that are not in clauses. And when we do that, we have to kind of use the clues around us to know, and the form of the word to know kind of what it's doing. These ones have an A here, even though you have vivere as the infinitive. So you have an ERE that turns to an A. You know it's subjunctive. Over here with amemos, you have amare as your infinitive. Your present infinitive turns into an E. So you know that these are subjunctives. And the biggest tell for these ones is the mus. You see the mus on here. The mus tells you that this is a hortatory subjunctive. Let us verb. In this case, let us live, my lesbia, and let us love. My lesbia is an interesting phrase. Lesbia is, of course, a fake name. It's a pseudonym for his girlfriend, or maybe somebody he wants to be his girlfriend's actual name. Her name was Clodia Metella. And he's using lesbia actually for a couple reasons. We're invoking Sappho, who was a Greek poet from the island of Lesbos. And so when he says lesbia, he's of course he's referring to his girlfriend, and she's in many other Catullus poems because he keeps writing about her and to her. But this name that he creates for her is so that he can protect her identity in ancient Rome because she's from a prominent family, and because he's kind of telling you we're doing kind of the Sapphic style poetry. And so we have mea lesbia as the person he's addressing, my lesbia. Vivamus mea lesbia atqua memus. We have we let us live, my lesbia, and let us love. And then this and right here, it looks like you're just going to continue on, but really you're connecting these two horatories with a third one, which we say rumores senum severiorum, no horatory yet, omnes unius aestimemos. There it is right there. So we get another one down here as well. And then asis, of course, right here. So we'll do some labeling and we'll be able to translate this next part. So we have rumores with an es ending. That es ending is going to be it's going to be accusative. It could be nominative, but since I just cheated and went down here and found aestimemos for you, we know it's accusative. Senum is a genitive plural because it's third declension. And then you have severiorum. As much as it looks like orum is the ending, is actually the ending, and you have an IOR. Ah, the comparative returns. And so you have another genitive plural. That agrees with these old men. The omnes here actually is a delayed agreement with rumore, so you get that kind of delayed. All the rumors, not just rumors. And then unius is one of these adjectives that takes an ius genitive, just like a pronoun. And so this is actually also a genitive, but it's a genitive singular, so it does not go with the senum severiorum up there. We get aestimemos. Here's another hortatory subjunctive. That's our verb. And then asis being third declension. That means that that's genitive singular as well. Okay, so 1 penny. That's a genitive of price. I'll explain that in a second. All right, so we do the let us verb one more time because that was the same up here. Vivamos, amemos, let us live, let us love, and let us value your accusatives. All the rumors of the more severe old men. And then we have a genitive here with assis. Assis means a penny, like a small copper coin. And what happens is you don't see this often in Latin literature, but sometimes you do. Prices of things are given in the genitive. So let us value all the rumors of the severe old men as worth one penny. All right. So overall, we say, let us live, my lesbia, and let us love, and let us value all the rumors of the more severe old men as worth one penny. And I'm going to the next. All right, so we have the next three lines up here now. Soles occidere et redire post. Nobis cum sema occidit brevis lux, nox est perpetua una dormienda. It gets a little dark here, but for a good reason. I'll talk about that as we go. We had the last three lines that you guys just saw. They're very lively. Let us live. Let us love. Let us ignore the old fuddy duddies, the old severe people, the old like kind of stern people. So now we get to this rather dark three lines that I'm going to explain after we're done here. So we have soles. Now you've heard of like solar power, right? So the soul there is that root. So these are suns. Suns. There's obviously not more than one sun, but he's talking about the sun, of course, going down and coming back. So he pluralizes sun to kind of bring in like days, but it has to do with the idea of the sun kind of going down and coming back. And so it just seems like many, even though it's anyway, the es there is your nominative or accusative. We continue on here with the ere, which is infinitive. That's infinitive. We have two infinitives here. And then possunt, possunt is a great word to have with infinitives. It means to be able. So this, because it's an NT, is going to be nominative. And you're going to have the sons are able to occidere et redire. Okidere means to kill. A lot of times, it also means to die. So I think this is going to be set here because the sun doesn't die so much as set. It goes down under the horizon there. And then return. Redire actually just comes from eo ire with re and there's a d in the middle. So it means to go back to return. Okay. So suns are able to set and return. Nobis cum semel occidit brevis lux. Now, nobis is a cool word. It's from ego me, mihi me, me, tu, te, te, nos, nostrum, nobis, nos, nobis. So that is, of course, us or we. And here we have a dative or ablative. Now, the odds are it's dative simply because we are animate objects and there's not a preposition or anything. And usually, when that's a thing, you're talking about datives. And so that's kind of your hint there, and it'll make sense as we go along as well. So cum here, you realize, is actually going to be a clause marker. And actually, what happens in poetry sometimes is the clause marker will leak into the clause, but it really kind of starts right there. Semel is an adverb, and then okidit here, the same meaning applies here, but with a person, it's still setting, but it's also more dying. But then again, light doesn't really die; it more like sets or goes out. So, however you like to translate that, you can. But brevis, being your is third declension adjective, agrees with looks. These are both your nominatives. That's the end of your cum clause. So we have when, once and for all. That's what semel means. It's an adverb, means just like for good. So when, once and for all, brief light sets. We're back to that nobis for us. In other words, we talked about the sun being able to set and return for us when brief light goes out. That's it. Once and for all, right? When brief light sets for us once and for all, nox est perpetua una, and then dormienda. Wow, that's a cool word. This actually gets paired with est, and it's going to be a future passive periphrastic. It's a really cool construction there. So we have all these things agreeing. Nox perpetua una, one perpetual night. Dormienda est, wants to be slept. It's over. Now, why so dark with Catullus here? Because we're talking about an Epicurean. Okay. Um, Catullus is living in a time when Greece has been conquered by Rome, and a lot of these cultural things that are more associated with the East, with Greece and with Turkey and with the rest of the Mediterranean, are flooding into Rome. Not that they weren't already, but like they're starting to catch up with Roman culture. And so you're getting less of a nationalism, a stoicism in Rome, and you're getting more of an Epicurean movement in the Republic. Epicureans, they believe in joy in life and happiness in life, but that is largely associated with the fact that you acknowledge that you're going to die, and if your days are numbered, you need to enjoy the days you're on Earth. And if you combine that with the Epicurean idea that fear is holding you back from happiness, and fear of the gods is one of those fears that holds you back, you get the idea that you don't need to do all the obligatory things that maybe the Stoics say you have to do. It's much more a pursuit of a higher form of happiness. And so if you combine these two chunks of the poem, you see like the lively, let us live, let us love, let's like kind of throw out the rumors of the old fuddy duddies, and then you're followed with the like, we're gonna die and it's gonna be over. There's nothing after that. There's no like getting together in the underworld, stuff like that. It's just over. A perpetual night must be slept. It's the idea that like we don't have to look forward to death and think about our virtues. We need to enjoy now. And that's kind of his exhortation to Lesbia. Let's enjoy life while we're here. Anyway, we put the next section up, and then we will continue talking. All right, so here's the next chunk of the poem. This one's doing a little quicker because it's kind of just a lot of repetition. But the first part is going to take us a little bit because we have to kind of get into it a little bit. So we have da right here. Da is from do dare, so your infinitive dare, and hopefully you've learned in your Latin class that if you chop off the re from an infinitive, for most verbs at least, you get the imperative that is singular, the singular imperative. So da is that singular imperative of do dare, to give. Mi is short for mihi, which, as you know from ego me, mihi me me, is dative, and it goes naturally with the giving verb. So give to me. Basia, basia mile. Basia is, of course, from basium, which is neuter. And if it's neuter, that a ending becomes nominative or accusative. That helps you with your imperative here. It's hard to have a nominative basia with an imperative da. And so this is going to allow it to be accusative plural. It means kiss. So kisses, give to me kisses. How many kisses? Mille, thousand kisses. It's not the word million. Million, that word comes from like a thousand thousands. But in Latin, mille, like a millimeter. The mille is 1,000. So give to me 1,000 kisses. It's important to note that numbers like mille and cantum, they hardly ever decline. So you don't need to worry too much about those changing form all that much. Maybe a little bit. So later in the poem, we'll see milia instead of mille, and that'll mean the same thing. But for the most part, a lot of numbers after 1, 2, and 3 just don't decline very much. So mille is going to kind of stay the same no matter what's going on. Day and day, I mean, and then kentum means 100, like a century or a cent. There's 100 cents in a dollar, or if you have a centipede, it was thought that they had 100 legs. It turns out they didn't. Din, and then mille altera. Altera, like the word alternative, another, so another 1,000, and another 1,000. And then a secunda centum, another 100, a second 100, if you will. And then even another 1,000, and then 100. So the point of this is the repetition of all of the large amounts of kisses. Give to me 1,000 kisses, then 100, then another 1,000, then a second 100, then even another 1,000, and then another 100. There's no another 1,000 there, but you get the idea. But the idea here, and he says it later on, is that you kind of lose count. You don't want to you don't want to start adding up. You're just to 3,300. It's not going to actually be all that interesting. But the idea is if you read these quickly and move on with the poem, your reader, Catullus's readers or listeners in the ancient world, didn't just add it up in their heads and think, oh, that's a certain amount. They lost count, and that's kind of the important part. So if you kind of think of it this way, da mihi basi mille, de in de centum, de in mille ultra, de in secunda centum, de in usque ultra mille, de in de centum. And then I would say the next line, and you didn't really have time to just keep adding up all those things. And so with that, we're going to do the last chunk. Right. Dein cum milia multa fecerimus, conturbabimus illa, ne sciamus. Aut ne quis malus invidere posset, cum tantum sciat esse evasiorum. Very nice end of the poem. Very interesting, actually. There's kind of some cool cultural stuff in here. So, Dein you get from those last parts, and then cum, we get that nice clause marker there. Milia multa, those things definitely agree. Milia is that instance where I showed you it meant 1,000, but like you got the kind of neuter plural a here, going with multa, so many thousands. And then facerimus is the third principal part of facio, which is facie, so facio facere, facie factus. And you'll notice the eri before the mus. This signals a perfect active subjunctive. Um, and in this case, you're actually going to translate it almost exactly like a normal indicative perfect active verb, indicative verb, because it's in a cum clause, probably a circumstantial clause. So, and then when we have made many thousands. Why is it subjunctive? Because this, in English, we use the word when for both like temporal and circumstantial stuff. The circumstantial stuff here is a little bit more connected than a simple temporal clause, so you use the subjunctive here. All right, conturbabimus illa. So you have your bobi boo ones and twos. So that's your future tense right there, and then you get your mus. So we conturbo conturbare, meaning to confuse, mix up. So we will mix them up. I think like lose count is kind of what the idea is here. We will mix them up. Ne sciamo. So here you have another subjunctive, another present tense subjunctive. But as you go on with subjunctives, you learn about ut and ne clauses. So this is not a let us know or let us not know. It's more of a like in order that. So we have a purpose clause. In order that we don't know, ne sciamos. And that goes with this confuse. So let us mix them up in order that we not know. Because we don't want to know how many kisses were made. We're gonna get to that in a second. Aut ne, so we have a conjunction that another ne. Quis malus invidere possit. Okay, we'll end our clause at that verb right there with a nice subjunctive sit as part of the possit. So the quis here is actually a aliquis, but it's after ne. And if you remember the rhyme, after si, nisi, num, and ne, all the alis fade away. Aliquis is really kind of your word, but it's after a ne, so it just looks like quis. Anyway, ne quis, so that means that this quis is your nominative going with malus, some evil guy. Invidere, your infinitive, and then possit, your verb. A nice subjunctive to go in this ne clause. Another purpose clause, negative purpose clause. So we have, or in order that some evil guy not be able to invidere, what a great word, invidere, to curse. But because the reason it's a cool word is because it has this like video kind of built into it. See, like the looking upon somebody. And the cool thing about this is it's kind of related to the meloquio, the giving somebody the evil eye in order to curse them. Something that's very Mediterranean tradition. So it's in order that some evil guy not be able to like to look badly upon us, to curse us. And then we'll explain that in a second after I get to this last part. But you get this cum right here, this cum clause. Tantum sciat. Ah, interesting. Another subjunctive a here, but you're in that cum clause. So just like up here, you're getting a when, maybe even a sense down here. And then your infinitive esse, and then basiorum. The orum is your genitive plural. And actually, that's going to connect over here with tantum. So many of kisses. You don't need to translate like that. You say so many kisses, but that's like kind of the grammar is so many of kisses. All right, so when he knows, the he being this evil, like evil bad guy, right? When he would know, and then you'll note that that's a head verb, and you have an infinitive and an accusative. You have an indirect statement here. My goodness, really, that's crazy. So what we need to do is say, all right, tantum is your accusative starts an indirect statement. You need to kind of take out your headverb. You don't. The headverb doesn't have any room inside the indirect statement. It just governs it, and then we can end it at posteriorum. So in this clause, it's a bit of crazy bracketing. Welcome to poetry. Cum tantum sciat your So the cum sciat is kind of like when he would know, and then your rest of this is a dependent clause modifying sciat. So when he would know that there are so many of kisses. So the idea is this evil guy would find out how many kisses there were, and he'd want to be able to. He wanted to curse them, but he wouldn't be able to. Why wouldn't he be able to? Because you need to know exact amounts, and you need a lot of specific information in order to curse somebody. What their infraction was is very important, down to like numbers and times and stuff like that. So Catullus ends up making the argument that they're going to have so many kisses made that these evil guys, even if they wanted to, they can't curse them because they don't even know how many happened. And it's almost symbolic of like we're gonna end up like enjoying life so much, and we're gonna be so Epicurean that like Stoics won't even know what to do with us. They're not going to be able to like look down upon us because we're going to be having so much of a good time, and they're not going to be able to curse us. They give us the evil eye. It's very cool. Um, so yeah, I really enjoy this poem. It's kind of a combination of a love letter, but also it has a little bit of philosophy in it. If you get into the Epicureanism, I hope my students, I hope we talk about that plenty in class. If you out there are just looking at this without being in my class, I hope that you go look up a little bit about Epicureanism and see if you think it relates to Catullus Five. I think it does. And I'm kind of a Horatian scholar in my own little way. So I kind of see these things often, even maybe where we were there. Not meant to be seen, but I sincerely think that Catullus Five has a bit of that, especially with that darkness to it. So I hope you enjoyed the interesting cultural stuff about the evil eye, the cursing somebody. But anyway, I hope this was helpful for you to get through the poem and to understand all what's going on in all of the little parts. And feel free to email me with questions or come and talk to me if you're in one of my classes. We can go through any part of it, but we'll have many more Catullus poems so we can like kind of get an idea for who this guy is. And thanks for watching. I appreciate it.